The Macedonian conquest of Asia. The Macedonian conquest of Asia, led by Alexander the Great, was a transformative period in ancient history. In just over a decade, Alexander's armies swept across the Persian Empire and beyond, claiming lands from the eastern Mediterranean to the fringes of India. This unprecedented campaign, driven by ambition, tactical brilliance, and a thirst for glory, reshaped the ancient world and spread Hellenistic culture across vast territories. The Macedonian conquest was not only a series of military victories, but also a catalyst for cultural exchange, economic integration, and a reimagining of empire. Chapter 1. The Call to Arms, Setting Sights on Persia. In 336 BCE, after the assassination of King Philip II, Alexander ascended to the throne of Macedon. His father had laid the groundwork for a united Greece, but Alexander was determined to extend Macedonian influence far beyond the borders of the Greek world. Persia, the ancient rival of Greece and the most powerful empire of its time, was his ultimate target. For Alexander, Persia represented the greatest challenge and the richest prize, a conquest that would secure his place among history's legendary leaders. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor, leading an army of 40,000 Macedonians and Greeks. This symbolic crossing marked the beginning of the Macedonian conquest, a campaign that would bring the young king face to face with the vast Persian Empire and its ruler, Darius III. Chapter 2. The Battle of Granicus, a Bold Start. The first major engagement of the Macedonian conquest was the Battle of Granicus. Alexander's forces clashed with Persian satraps in a decisive battle near the Granicus River. Though the Persians held a strong defensive position, Alexander demonstrated his characteristic audacity by leading a charge across the river. The Macedonian phalanx and cavalry overwhelmed the Persian forces, securing Alexander's first significant victory in Asia. The victory at Granicus opened Asia Minor to Macedonian control and demonstrated Alexander's fearlessness in battle, inspiring loyalty among his troops. City after city submitted to him as he moved through Asia Minor, and his growing reputation attracted local allies, transforming his army into a multi-ethnic force united under his command. The victory at Granicus established a pattern that would define Alexander's campaign: rapid movement, strategic boldness, and a blend of diplomacy and military strength. Chapter 3. The Siege of Halicarnassus and the Path to Persia. Continuing his campaign in Asia Minor, Alexander reached the fortified city of Halicarnassus. The Persians had heavily fortified this coastal stronghold, and the siege tested Alexander's tactical ingenuity. He used siege engines, tunneling, and coordinated assaults to breach the city's defenses. Halicarnassus fell after weeks of fighting, demonstrating Alexander's determination to secure control over Persian territories. After the fall of Halicarnassus, Alexander pushed further south, securing the cities of Lycia, Pamphylia, and Cilicia. Each victory cemented his hold over Asia Minor and secured his rear, preventing Persian reinforcements from reaching these strategic coastal areas. By securing Asia Minor, Alexander positioned himself to launch an assault on the heart of the Persian Empire. Chapter 4. The Battle of Issus, Confronting Darius III. In 333 BCE, Alexander's forces encountered the Persian king, Darius III, at the Battle of Issus. Darius had assembled a massive army to confront Alexander, but the narrow battlefield neutralized the Persian numerical advantage. In a decisive move, Alexander led a charge toward the Persian center, targeting Darius's position. The sight of Alexander and his cavalry bearing down caused Darius to flee, abandoning his army and his family. The victory at Issus was a turning point in the Macedonian conquest, delivering a blow to Persian morale and consolidating Alexander's control over the Levant. By capturing Darius's family and treating them with respect, Alexander demonstrated his chivalric ideals. This victory also cemented his soldiers' belief in him as an invincible leader destined for greatness. Alexander's conquest was now no longer simply a campaign. It was a path to empire. Chapter 5. The Siege of Tyre and March into Egypt. After Issus, Alexander advanced along the coast toward the fortified island city of Tyre. Tyre's strategic position made it a critical stronghold, and Alexander could not bypass it without risking his rear. Refusing to surrender, Tyre forced Alexander into one of his most ambitious sieges. For 7 months, Alexander's engineers worked tirelessly to construct a causeway from the mainland to the island. Despite facing fierce resistance from Tyrian forces, Alexander's perseverance paid off, and he finally breached Tyre's walls. The fall of Tyre marked one of the most challenging and significant sieges of his campaign, securing control of the eastern Mediterranean and opening the way into Egypt. From Tyre, Alexander marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. In Egypt, he founded the city of Alexandria, envisioning it as a hub of commerce and culture that would connect Greece, Egypt, and Asia. The city would go on to become one of the most influential cities of the ancient world, symbolizing Alexander's vision of a united empire where Greek and Eastern cultures could thrive together. Chapter 6. The Battle of Gaugamela, Decisive Victory over Persia. In 331 BCE, Alexander's forces met Darius again at the Battle of Gaugamela, a final confrontation on the open plains. Darius had amassed an enormous army, hoping to overwhelm Alexander with sheer numbers. But Alexander's tactical brilliance won the day. Using feints, he created an opening in the Persian line, leading a direct assault on Darius's position and forcing the Persian king to flee once more. The victory at Gaugamela shattered Persian resistance, and Alexander entered the heart of the Persian Empire, capturing the cities of Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis. The capture of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, was both a symbolic and strategic victory. Alexander ordered its palaces burned, perhaps as a symbolic act of revenge for Persia's past invasions of Greece. The fall of Persepolis marked the end of the Achaemenid Empire and Alexander's ascendancy as King of Kings. Chapter 7. The Pursuit of Darius and Expansion into Central Asia. Despite his control over Persia, Alexander pursued Darius, hoping to capture the Persian king alive. His chase led him through the rugged regions of Bactria and Sogdiana, where he encountered fierce resistance from local tribes. This phase of the campaign tested Alexander's adaptability, as he had to contend with unfamiliar guerrilla tactics and harsh terrain. Eventually, Darius was betrayed and killed by his own men. Alexander honored him with a royal funeral, symbolizing his respect for his former adversary. With Darius's death, Alexander declared himself the rightful ruler of Persia and began integrating Persian nobility into his administration. He adopted elements of Persian dress and customs, signaling his desire to unify the diverse peoples of his empire. Chapter 8. Into India, the edge of the known world. With Persia under his control, Alexander turned his attention to the lands of India, driven by a desire to push the boundaries of his empire. In 327 BCE, he crossed the Hindu Kush, entering the Indian subcontinent. The Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BCE, fought against King Porus and his war elephants, was one of Alexander's most challenging encounters. Though victorious, the battle revealed the limits of his campaign. The Indian campaign tested the endurance and loyalty of Alexander's troops, who had been away from home for nearly a decade. Faced with unfamiliar terrain and monsoon rains, the soldiers grew weary. When Alexander expressed his desire to march further east, his men mutinied, longing to return home. Recognizing their exhaustion, Alexander reluctantly agreed, marking the easternmost extent of his empire. Chapter 9. The Grueling Return and the Gedrosian Desert. On the return journey, Alexander led his men through the Gedrosian Desert, one of the harshest legs of the campaign. Extreme heat, lack of water, and difficult terrain led to heavy losses, testing the loyalty and endurance of his soldiers once again. The desert crossing underscored the cost of Alexander's ambition, as his army suffered greatly. By the time they reached Babylon, Alexander's forces were exhausted, but his ambition remained undiminished. Though he dreamed of further conquests and grand plans to unify his empire, the trials of the Gedrosian Desert had revealed the toll of a decade of continuous campaigning. Chapter 10. Alexander's Vision and the Fragmentation of Empire. In Babylon, Alexander began to implement policies to consolidate his empire, encouraging marriages between his Macedonian soldiers and Persian women and appointing Persian nobles to high positions. His vision of a unified realm sought to blend Greek and Eastern traditions, creating a new ruling class that would embody both cultures. However, in 323 BCE, at the age of 32, Alexander fell ill and died, leaving his empire without a clear successor. His generals divided his vast realm into separate Hellenistic kingdoms, each vying for power. Though the empire he built fragmented, the cultural and intellectual impact of his conquests endured. Epilogue: The legacy of the Macedonian conquest. The Macedonian conquest of Asia was a turning point in history. Alexander's empire, though short-lived, laid the foundation for the Hellenistic age, a period of cultural exchange and intellectual flourishing that spread Greek influence across the Mediterranean, Near East, and beyond. Greek became the lingua franca of the Eastern Mediterranean, facilitating trade, knowledge, and communication across diverse regions. The cities Alexander founded, especially Alexandria in Egypt, became centers of